Good evening. Would you please stand for the invocation and pledge of allegiance? Councilman Rogers.
Let us pray. Our God, our Father in heaven, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the blessings you've given to each of us here tonight. We pray tonight that you will watch over us and guide us as we go about the business of the city. We continue to pray for our veterans serving in harm's way. Be with them, guard them, protect them. These things we pray in Christ's name, and amen.
Councilman Leach, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. We have a guest with us this evening, all the way from the city of Parkersburg. One of their famous council members, Mr. Jeff Fox. Welcome, Jeff.
Thanks for coming.
We have 3 people that have signed up for the public forum this evening. Kim, you are first.
Good evening. So I feel like something's missing here. Vienna is stronger when citizens are involved. The benefit for citizens to have information about upcoming meetings is very important. It is important that folks know what's going to be discussed in advance of the council meetings. Citizens need to be able to bring questions before the mayor, council members, prior to the meetings. It's difficult for members of the community to be involved if they are kept in the dark about developments only to find afterwards by reading it in a newspaper. Good governance begins with transparency. So what am I talking about? For the last month or so, I have requested full agendas with documentation prior to the meetings. Last council meeting we had there was an agenda item that was said, resolution, TIF, Grand Central Mall. It was extremely vague. According to the Open Governmental Meetings Act, the agenda must be descriptive enough to put the public on notice of the nature of the matter being discussed. On April 11th, that agenda item was so vague, there was no way to adequately put the public on notice as to the matter. So after several back and forth emails, I was able to get a copy of that resolution about a day before the meeting, and I was able to read through it. But I asked again for the documentation about this meeting, and I couldn't get it. And why this meeting is important to me, because not only am I a citizen of Vienna, I also own a business that sits right on Grand Central Avenue. So under tonight's agenda, it's Grand Central Avenue Streetscape Agreement with Division of Highways. That's of interest to me, and I would like to be able to read that full agenda. And I was told that agendas will be made available, full agendas will be made available tonight prior to the meeting. So the mayor put them out probably about 15 minutes before the meeting. Here they are. That's not an adequate enough time for anybody to review that information. So by contrast, the city of Parkersburg puts out a complete agenda, including all supporting documents, every Thursday before their Tuesday meeting. So not only is that agenda available to anybody who asks for one, it's also sent out to WTAP, the newspaper. Even Mayor Rapp gets a copy of that. That's transparency. So what I'm requesting is that whoever wants it, whoever, be able to have a copy of the full agenda with all the documentations prior to the meetings to give us an opportunity to review what's going to be happening at the council meeting. And I hope that wouldn't be too much to ask for, because I would hate to have to go and do a Freedom of Information Act request for that information. It's the people's documents. It's not personal documents to anybody here. It's not an odd request, but you know, I don't want to have to do that. So I would hopefully we can get this resolved, and those, like what's available here tonight, would be available to folks who are interested in what's going on in Vienna. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Greg Frazier.
Good evening. I just have one question. Greg Frazier, 1210 22nd Street here in Vienna. Last year we talked about having the urban deer hunt. I was wondering, and I think when we talked about it at the meeting, we were late getting information to DNR. What's the status on that for this fall?
We're actually ahead of the game, Greg.
All right.
Chief Pfeiffer, would you give us an update on that, sir?
We met Mr. McCready with the DNR. He said everything had to be in by August 1st before approval with the head guy there at the DNR. So we're working on that. I think part of the city or strategy is to find someone to head that up and to organize it the way we see fit, and get with the High Valley University up there, and so everybody can be on the same page.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Could I make
Heck
a
yeah, you can do that every week.
could I make a comment on that?
Yes, sir, Bruce.
When Councilman Stevens was here, we met with the DNR to try to get an urban deer hunting system put here in Vienna. The biggest problem is when you find an area that's over 3 acres, which is what they require for hunting, you're not going to find too many areas here in Vienna over 3 acres to hunt on. And there was only 2 or 3 places that we could find when I worked with the DNR and Mr. Stevens. And one of the places was at High Valley University, and they said yes. They did not want it done on their property or adjacent to their property. The only other place that I know of is a couple homes up by the river, and they said they didn't want any hunting on their property. The only other place that I know of is in McDonough Wildlife Area, and it is a wildlife area. It's not a hunting reserve, and I know there's a lot of deer in that area, but it's not a hunting area. And I know when North Hills does it, their area that they hunt is adjacent to the McDonough Wildlife Area. And to try to, I know there's a bad problem with deer here in Vienna. I have no, I understand that because people are talking about all their flowers eating and everything like that. But there is no land large enough here in this city. And Mr. Stevens, when he and I met, we went over every area in this city to try to find an area large enough to do it. And there was only a couple areas, and one of them was, like I said, a High Valley University, and there was a couple by the river in the north side of Vienna, and the property owners didn't want hunting on there. I've got a bow and arrow, and if I brought it in, I don't think you'd want me sitting in a stand 10 feet off the ground in your backyard hunting a deer with those razor sharp points on some of those areas. I mean, it will go through buildings, and I don't think a lot of people, it sounds like a great idea, it really does. And if you have an area like North Hills that is adjacent to McDonough Wildlife Area, that would be fine, but I don't think too many people would want something like that in their backyard. Thank you.
All right, Brenda Powell.
Good evening. Sorry. Good evening. Thank you for letting me have the opportunity to speak this evening. I did want to make one comment in regards to the situation with the deer that could help if council would do it, is actually put an ordinance or into effect for those that feed the deer or have feeders in Vienna. That would help to cut down possibly on the deer population if they aren't feeding them to draw them in. So that was just a suggestion that maybe the council might want to think about. I wanted to bring to your attention this evening in regards to a letter that I came across on the internet that is from the state of West Virginia with the state auditor, John McCuskey. It was dated April the 9th, 2018. And it has to deal with the West Virginia checkbook, which I think Councilman Conley brought that up a while back last year, made a comment about it that was trying to get in the works there in Charleston. There's several counties, I guess, that are becoming involved in this. And the thing I wanted to stipulate here is it states at the bottom of the letter, the enemy of any democracy is uneducated citizenry. Through our transparency website, every taxpayer in our state should know how their money is being spent on the municipal, county, and state level. McCuskey said, therefore, it is imperative officials on the local levels join us. I am asking if the city of Vienna is going to participate in this program of the West Virginia checkbook.
If and when it is up and running, everything that we do is transparent. You can see the checks, where they were written, when they were written. But I wasn't aware that it is up and running yet.
The website is up and running, and it does have it to where that you can go in to different counties. The state has theirs up and available. So, you can go on the website through the state and be able to get information. I didn't know whether or not you're going to check on it and see if you're going to get involved in this.
We can have our finance director look at that.
Okay, well, I just thought I'd bring it to your attention. I did happen to see this. It is dated a year ago, but still, it's something that would help with transparency and give people the ability to go in and look and see where the money's going.
Okay?
May I respond to that for just a second, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I spoke with Auditor McCuskey probably 6 weeks ago.
Okay.
He's very excited about the program, and you're right, it is up and running at the state level. It's getting very close. That was his words, so I don't know what very close is, to being able to roll out to the county levels. But he said within 2 years, it would be available for cities and municipalities. So it's not quite there yet, but he said within a very short period of time, it's available for the counties, and within a couple of years, it'll be ready for the cities and municipalities.
Well, I'm hoping that it's something that the city will get involved in, but it looks like that you're going to have to approach them. It doesn't seem like that it's going to be the other way around. So that's why I wanted to bring it to the attention, even though it was dated last year for this letter. I wasn't sure where it was at in the status, but thank you for the update on that.
I'd like to call to order this regular session of the Vienna City Council for April the 25th, 2019. Let the record reflect that I've taken roll that all members of council are present with the exception of Recorder Smith. Having a quorum, we will proceed. The minutes from the regular council meeting held on April the 11th, 2019, and the special council session held on April the 16th, 2019, have been printed, posted, and circulated. Are there any corrections to the minutes? If there are no objections, then the minutes will stand approved as posted. The report of the treasurer will be given at the first meeting in May. So we move into our agenda. We have no unfinished business. First item under the new business is a resolution authorizing the sale of the 31st Street garage.
At some point, Mayor, I'd like to ask if council would, somebody from council would ask for an executive session. I'd like to run over a couple of details that I can't go over in a public forum about the sale.
Okay. Let me show the pictures and then we'll do whatever you need to, Russ. For all of you that are not aware, the 31st Street garage is one of the two maintenance garages that we have on 31st Street. This is the one that's on the left-hand side behind Lambert Tapman. It is a metal pole building. If you look at the Google map, you will see where the red indicator is. That is right there. And this is this is the Lambert Tapman property. And this is our other garage on 31st Street, which houses our police department vehicles. So This is the piece of property that is in question, and so I wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of what we were talking about this evening.
I'll make the motion, we'll go into executive session.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we go into executive session to discuss a legal matter
Involving real property.
involving real property. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Let the record reflect we went into executive session at 7:16. Russ, do you need these pictures or anything?
Chief, can I borrow you for a second?
Sorry, Chief.
Let the record reflect we came back into regular session at 7:27, but no decisions were made. It was information only. I would like to clarify one thing. The building that is being put up for sale is 400 31st Street. The police garage, which is across the street, is 401 31st Street. So just to clarify that, it is not both tracks. It is simply the empty building that is on the same side of the street as Lambert Tappan. Anything else?
No.
Okay. All right. I have before us this evening a resolution authorizing the sale of the 31st Street garage, real property, and curtailage by auction through sealed bid with a reserve. Be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Vienna that it hereby authorize the mayor and/or his designee to conduct a sale of the 31st Street garage and the real property therewith by public auction through sealed bid. Said bids to be submitted to the city to occur on a date to be set by the mayor and/or his designee. Said property is further described in the attached deed incorporated by reference. There is hereby set a reserve on the property. The city reserves the right to reject any and all bids. Do you want to do anything with the resolution?
No.
Leave it as it is.
Yeah, because I think you've clarified it enough by pointing out which parcel it is.
Okay. Well, when the legal notice comes out, it'll have all of the deed particulars and all that in it, so, okay? All right, I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the resolution authorizing the sale of the 31st Street garage.
So move. Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution authorizing the sale of the 31st Street garage. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then, all those in favor of the resolution, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries 6-0. Would you tell the procedure that will happen once the bids are reviewed and all that?
We'll set a time and place. We'll do legal notices, and then once the bids are received, any bid that is submitted will be given to council. We'll set a we'll set an agenda item at a later meeting. In order to convey property, you have to have a reading by ordinance. So you have to have 2 readings. To sell the property, we need to approve an agreement. We'll need to do the ordinance to accept the bid and sale. And then that's essentially it.
Okay, all right. And we did take possession of that piece of property in 1976. So that's how long we've had that. The second item on our agenda this evening is the Grand Central Avenue streetscape agreement with the Division of Highways. I've received correspondence back and forth with the lady that's in charge of this program, and they're now asking us to sign the agreement so it can proceed. To review this, the agreement that came from the state of West Virginia has several items in it that are basically generic, but there are some special things in it. This is an agreement between the West Virginia Department of Transportation, the Division of Highways, and the City of Vienna. We received a award in 2016, which was the design award for $75,000, and in 2014 we received a design and construction project award of $159,851. The combined amount of those 2 awards is $234,851. The initial engineering has been done. Council chose to start with the development from the 25th Street end and work back towards 34th Street. And so that's where the initial improvements will be made. The Department of Highways is in charge of the engineering part of the project for review. And once the project is completed, The city is responsible for the future maintenance for 15 years. This will be federal funds that the state is giving us. And the federal funds will be used for on-call consultants lump sum fee for the design and the department review and preparation of the NEPA, National Environmental Protection Agency, documentation. So that will be on them. Basically, what they're asking us to do now is to council to authorize this project to move forward. It is an 80-20 match. The state is putting forward $114,813 towards the actual design or the actual construction of this project. The 20% match from the city would be $28,703. The other thing that they're asking us for is that that they be made aware of anything that is completed so that they can be part of whatever openings or what have you that we would do an announcement of this project. The contractor will be required to use federal Davis-Bacon Act wages on this project. This project entails basically sidewalks, lighting, and safety measures as far as the areas along Grand Central Avenue. And that is basically it. I do not believe that this amount of money that they've allocated will in any way, shape, or form complete this project. There are grants continually opened up for this, and so because we've received 2 grants already, if the council's decision is to proceed with this, we will continue to apply for funds from the state of West Virginia, which would be under the matching 80-20 program. So before we talk about the resolution, let's just open it up for questions or comments.
Mayor, do we have any estimates that has been provided to us from Burgess and Nyepel as part of their scope of work? And I'm asking that to try to ascertain with that $143,516, which covers construction and construction inspection, how far do we anticipate that that will go? What do we think we can accomplish with that amount of money?
We have not had the 90% meeting yet. They've only done the 30%. So we will not have an accurate estimate. If you recall, I'm going to guess 6 weeks ago, we decided as a group what target zone we wanted to start. And so now that we've narrowed it down, now they will start to put the pencil to it. The money that they're referring to in this is the grant amount that we have received, and the 20% match would be our share of that. All the engineering and all of that is, on the state's side of the equation. So the money that's there it would be what would be spent along Grand Central for the brick pavers, the sidewalk, the new lighting, those things. So until we get the 90% review, which will be done with Burgess and Nyepel, there are no accurate numbers because we narrowed the scope on the project. More than likely, because of the cost, it would have to be done in phases, and because of the new developments and things that are going on in the 28th Street and down area, and the areas up above on towards 34th Street. That's where the target zones have went in for the first phase and possibly the second phase.
And I agree with you. I would guess that the $143,000 is not going to go very far. But I guess what gives me the most heartburn with this, looking at it down the road, is the fact that, we're voting to proceed with something that we don't have any idea what we're going to be spending, how much money we're gonna be spending down the road. You know, even though they are grants, you know, ours is gonna be 20%. 20% of what? We've got a lot of infrastructure that needs to be looked at, and you know, and I just don't know whether this is a good thing or not without having some sort of a final estimation of cost as to whether, you know, we spend our money on sidewalks and fancy lights, or whether we use that money to concentrate on our infrastructure. I mean, I just don't have enough information. I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm saying there's not enough information here for me to determine that.
I know that a part of this with the streetscape is not just lights. We've got some serious issues with sidewalks, particularly on the east side of Grand Central. To be able to take the dollars that we have available and contribute only 20% for the improvement of the city, you know, and this is kind of somewhat within the wheelhouse of the Tree and Beautification Committee. I mean, I think going to some of what Kim said as far as information, we've had several meetings in Budget and Finance. We've had presentations by the state of West Virginia. We've got the agreement from them as far as, you know, our hands are tied as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this information is only going to come to us as the state and federal agencies involved make it available to us. I mean, we've got our engineers and so on. So, you know, so in terms of you know, something to get involved in, and Roger, I think it'd be a great project for the beautification of Vienna for you to take a look at it and say, you know, because you know, I think you're going to be somewhat hamstrung in getting the information. But again, for the improvements that we need and paying 20% for those improvements, I think by any measure has to be looked at hard as a good investment for the city.
If you look at the city of Parkersburg, on the Fifth Street improvements that have been made, the new pavers, all of the things that they did down there, it really is an enhancement for that entire area. Tim Hortons all the way down. When you look at the job that was done, it looks terrific. And, you know, to only have to pay 20% of the total cost, I think for us is a good investment. You know, Grand Central Avenue is the signature of our city. And for every person that comes in and for all the businesses that relocate here or locate here, I think it shows that we're invested in how we view our city. There are unknowns, but you're right. We do not get that information. And the reason for this agreement is at some point, the state wants a commitment from us that says, yes, you're gonna participate in this, because they've got lots of projects going on. And so that's the reason why that they want us to sign this agreement, so that we will move forward with the project and know that, you know, they will know that we're committed to this. We don't have to do the next phases. Obviously, the money that we've already been allocated is there. So if we're willing to pay our 20%, we will reap the benefits of their 80%. So, you know.
And again, I absolutely am not saying that this is a bad thing. I just, it was my understanding that part of the Burgess and Nyepel scope of work was going to be to provide us with a estimation of total cost. And I just think we need to just table this for now until we find out what that 90% review looks like, to see what the total cost estimation is going to be. You know, I understand that 20% that we're looking at right now is, you know, $28,000, but going down the road, 20% of what is what I want to know. And it's my understanding that we are going to know what that number is when Burgess and Nyepel has completed their scope of work, unless something has changed.
The letter that I have in front of me from the Department of Highways is dated November the 16th, 2018. In my conversations with Melissa Green, the lady that's in charge of this program for our project, I asked her to put it on hold until we got through with the home rule, because we did not know where our standing would be until that was settled. And so now that home rule has been settled and the program is a permanent program, she's now sent another letter back to me asking for us to make a decision. I'm not, you know, That's the only reason why it's before you all, is because they're now asking, you know, what is your intent? So
Has there
Mayor,
been any
my-
contact with Burgess and Nyepel about what they were looking at providing to us? That
They
Roger-
had 12 months to do
that-
that.
that
Their
Roger
12
spoke
months is
about.
basically up.
we've had numerous meetings with Burgess and Nyepel, but now that the scope has been narrowed and they know now where their target zone is, they have not came back yet with their estimate. And of course, whatever the estimate is still has to go out for bid. This is not one of these projects where you can just go pick, you know, whoever's going to do
Right.
that. It will be a bid process. So we will not know the actual cost until it actually goes out for bid. And someone, excuse me, Jeff, for putting you on the spot, but do you know which contractor did your all's work on Fifth Street?
I don't recall who did that.
I know it was several years ago, and I don't remember either. But at any rate, there, you know, one of the contractors will bid on that. But that's the only answer I have, Roger.
I
Okay,
understand.
we don't have the 90% yet, and so I don't have any estimates on the. I just know that they're willing to bring $143,000 to the table, and they're asking us for a commitment of 28.
The target area that we're looking at, particularly on the east side, as Councilman Leach mentioned, in the area of ADA especially, you know, I like that target area, if nothing more than the ADA compatible stuff, because now it's not. I mean, it's not even close as I understand it. So I like that idea. However, what we're looking to do right now, does that commit us beyond the target area that's set at this point?
It does not commit us to anything more than our 20% match. If the entire, and this is an impossibility, but if the entire grant that we have would do all the way up, then we would get that. But the money that the grant that we received will only cover whatever the bid for that is. All right?
Okay.
So we don't have to go any farther past the spectrum of the bid.
Okay.
All right? And if we only get one block done or 2 blocks done, then that's what we get. You know, it just depends on what council's feeling is.
So I want to make sure I understand this as well. So what we're committing to right now, or looking at on this resolution, is to commit $28,000 in order to gain another $143,000, and that money will go as far as it goes, and then there are additional phases that we'll consider later.
Correct.
Okay.
And there again, my only concern with that is it's just almost like a blank check. I mean, I appreciate the fact that there's $114,000 there in grant money, but, and we're putting out $28,000, but I would like to know, and I can't believe that we can't get some indication from Burgess and Nyepel, what are we gonna get for that $114,000? You know, what are we gonna
Was
get
it
for the
114 or
28,000?
143?
It's 143 total, 114 would be the share, 28 is our makeup
Okay.
of the difference.
The 114 is what we.
Right, I understand.
And what it is when Burgess and Nyepel's done, you will get very detailed drawings of the lighting, of the pavers, of the kickouts for the enhanced safety. There will be very detailed drawings to present to you all for approval.
And then that goes out, if we approved it, would go out to bid for a
Correct.
contractor to execute
Correct.
the work, correct?
Yes. And there's lots of options too. You know, if we get this and when the numbers come back really high, then you can ask them to take the lighting out or to narrow the scope of, you know, whatever the paver design is. There are options. We don't have to take it as it comes. All right?
So with respect to, for example, the work that, you know, Burgess and Nyepel's not working for free. So the work they're doing in drafting this plan, what's the source of funds for that? Does that come out of our 28 or?
Burgess and Nyepel's being paid 100% by the state.
Okay, so,
We have no cost in
That's
that at all.
yeah, I don't have that in front of me right now.
The first grant that we received was for the engineering. So we have no expense in that at
Okay.
all.
So all those dollars will go to the actual improvements that we're talking about now? So,
yes.
Yes.
Yes, it is. Any further discussion? Then I'll entertain a motion to sign the proposed agreement for the Grand Central Avenue Streetscape Project designated as Wood County State Project U354-VIE/NN-1 with the state of West Virginia.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the proposed agreement with the Department of Highways for the Grand Central Avenue Streetscape Project. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then I'll call for the question. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed? It's 5-1 with Mr. Conley voting no.
And again, I want to repeat, I'm not against the project. I voted no because I don't know what we're voting on.
Okay. That concludes our agenda for this evening. We'll move on now to council comments. Yes, sir, Bruce?
First of all, I've got about 3 questions. I'd like to thank Councilman Conley to responding to a Facebook question from the person asking about the Manville property. And his response was, we haven't heard anything back yet. And I'd like to know if we can get an update on it. That's number 1. Number 2, the Hardee's has not been vacant for very long, but again, on Facebook, I've heard it's going to be a Dairy Queen, but I have not heard that yet or not, and I don't know if the Dairy Queen by 34th Street is going to move there or not. I haven't heard anything about it. I keep hearing all these rumors, and that's all I can hear about. The Napoli's, which is supposed to come across the street from Hardee's, we were told is going to be a testing kitchen for Napoli's or something. I know that Napoli's has a fine restaurant in Belpre. Is that going to be a restaurant and a testing center, or is it just going to be a testing center? I know Kim asked a lot of questions. We are kind of left in a vague cloud up here as far as that's concerned, and every day at the senior center I get people coming in saying what's going on. I'm saying I don't know, and so those 3 things I'd like to know something about. As far as the Manville, have we heard any update? I'm not just talking about Spencer's Landing, I'm talking about the plant side or both. But, you know, and some of the other questions, and
Well,
I'm
let
kind
me
of
answer
curious.
2 of those for you,
Hobby
Bruce.
Lobby is going on. They seem to be progressing. Let's see, Big Lots seems to be going on or progressing. You know, these are some of the things that are coming in here, and, you know, I've heard what might be going in, but I haven't heard exactly, and I think we should, as council people, should receive a little more information. I mean, if you want to keep it private or say don't discuss it yet, that's fine. I don't care, but I'd just like to know more of what's basically going on in our city.
Okay, I'll answer 2 of those questions. I'll let Mr. Leach answer the one about Manville. As far as the Napoli's project, well, as far as all the projects go, we have got an incredible amount of review going on right now of proposed plans. That's all we get is we get plans from the architect that say, here's what the building is going to look like. Here's the things that are going to go in it. Unfortunately, most of the people that are building these projects want to make that announcement themselves. And so typically, we as a city do not say anything to take their thunder. So that's why you don't hear anything, because until they make the announcements, that's pretty much their decision. I do know that we're waiting on the plans for the Napoli's building. But from my conversations with Mr. Waldeck, there will be food available to the public. So to what degree that's going to be, whether it's a sit-down restaurant like Belpre has, I'm not sure. I've not seen the plans. But I do know that when he talked to me that he was very excited about that part of it. So I do believe that there will be food for the public there. As far as the Hardee's building and the Dairy Queen, I have not seen anything on that. I have heard the same stories that you and most everybody else in town has. So I can't confirm that, simply because we don't have that in front of us yet. But I'm sure there again, they'll do some big splash. You'll start to see all of the equipment move down if that is going to happen. They did repave the lot the other day, so whatever's gonna happen, I'm guessing will happen pretty quickly. The big lots and the Hobby Lobby are both progressing on the interior builds. Some of the preliminary inspections have been done on both of those facilities, the electrical inspections, the fire safety, the sprinkler systems, all of that. Chief Scholl and Dwayne Flutie have done those. So both of those projects are moving along very nicely. The other things that are going on, I just know that there's exciting things coming. But there again, until the people that are actually involved in that make their announcements, I can't give you any more than that.
If Dairy Queen does move down to Hardee's, 34th Street is the cutout for commercial property except Dairy Queen, which used to be a Quaker State restaurant or service station.
It's going back.
How long will it take that commercial property so that another commercial business will not be brought into there and will turn back to residential property?
It's grandfathered now because of the way, when it was a
Right.
Quaker State, it was there before.
Yeah.
But there is a time limit. I know previously the nursing home that was up on the corner of 39th and Grand Central,
Right.
when it closed, it's now residential. They're out of it can't be reopened as another business. But there is a time limit, but I'm not sure what it is, Ruth, whether it's 1 year or whether it's the next previous sale or, the next sale. I don't know the answer to that question, but there are guidelines. You can't go back, and once it's been a business and it doesn't become a business anymore,
Right.
then you lose that grandfathered ability in there. So,
Okay. Thank you.
all right.
Jim, you have an update on Manville?
Yeah, actually, with respect to Manville, I mean, this is an ongoing project, and I'd like to put this on the agenda for May 9th meeting, and I'll provide a pretty thorough update. But just to answer your question, first of all, on the Riverside, the remedial action work plan has been approved, and the plans are in progress to get that project started. With respect to the production side, we're in the phase where the site characterization report is complete, and it's being evaluated for what kind of way forward we need to go with the risk assessment. And that's the phase where they determine what remedial work, if any, needs to be done. So I'd like to just put that, because again, just with respect to people being aware that this topic's going to come up, and so they can tune in and get an update on it. And again, by May 9th, I think that we'll have a timeline for the work to start on the Riverside. And I think that we'll also have a pretty good update on what's going to happen with the risk assessment on the production side. So I'd like to have that on the agenda for May 9th, and I'll be prepared to discuss that in detail.
Whatever time that the actual work is being done down there, the remediation, the park will be closed. We will actually cable it off so you can't get in at any time during that entire process. There'll be some exposed holes.
Just so
So-
people know, when that work starts, okay, then our licensed remediation specialist will be on site for the entire work, and he'll be controlling the site. And you're right, I'm sure that they'll be closed because there will be heavy equipment and work going on there.
Well, last time that we had to do some, when they came in with the
Right.
machine to do that, we put cones up and people simply moved the cones. Well, that didn't work very well, so, we'll actually put a chain up, a cable up this time, and, we'll try to keep it as safe as we possibly can.
If you guys want to send me those dates ahead of time, if you can, I can run them in the newspaper.
We will. When Jim does his meeting, when his announcements on the
Yeah,
9th.
you'll know on the 9th, and
You'll know
that'll
the
be enough
time
time.
frame. Okay,
If anything changes with the time frame, let me know.
well, I don't think it,
Sometimes you know weather and whatnot. though.
correct, yes.
No one's more
To the best
excited
of
than
our
me than to
ability.
lock in a date to get that done.
Okay. The last update, Bruce already knows this because he was there. The contract has been let for the rehab of wells 7 and 8. It will begin almost immediately for the new electrical upgrade and the new well pumps. And I spoke with Comores, and their part of the project will begin in May. So by midsummer into summer, we should be finished with the third carbon filters. So that's moving along very nicely.
Bruce's third question was on the agenda.
Thank you.
Pardon me?
He asked a question about.
Two development questions and then Manville.
I answered the two development questions.
No, I thought Bruce had said something about the
No,
agenda.
I'm done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Disregard.
I thought I did. Okay. Other council comments this evening?
Yes, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
We recently had the unfortunate situation of having a department head suspended pending the investigation of allegations presented. I want to go on record as being very unhappy with the process and the outcome. This council as a whole had very little involvement throughout the process, while another department was much more involved. After I objected to that, I was told the suspended individual was over that department, and that was the reason. My point was that this department head also was involved with another department that was a council responsibility, and that council should have been involved. It would be my opinion that when council was finally brought up to speed, that you, Mayor, had already made your decision. During the council meeting of 4/11/19, our last meeting, there were several employees from that department here in this council chamber. Those employees, by and large, were here to send us all a loud message that they did not want this department head to return. There was also concern among members of council concerning this potential reinstatement. At least 2 council members opposed the reinstatement, while others did voice concern. Despite all of that, you alone, Mayor, made the decision to bring this employee back. You, Mayor, in my opinion, had total disregard for the wishes of the employees and the concerns of council. It would appear that, to me, you again did what you wanted to do, whether it be in the best interest of our employees and the citizens or not. And I just, in closing, certainly hope that this does not prove to be, in my opinion, another in a long line of bad decisions that you've made while running the city.
I'd like to comment. So obviously I was participating in these meetings and I've been familiar with the situation as well. And Councilman Conley is expressing just that, his opinion. And without
That's
getting
exactly
into.
what I said in
Yeah,
my
I
opinion.
Excuse me,
understand.
Mr. Conley. Mr. Leach is speaking.
And, with regard to the evaluation of the situation, of the way that our city is run by an administration. Council has the authority granted by ordinances, and the mayor has the authority granted by the powers vested by the citizens of Vienna. So I'm just gonna tell you, I flat disagree with Councilman Conley, his assessment of how this was handled, as I often disagree with Councilman Conley. His analysis, in my view, is often flawed. He's made many mistakes on council. He wants to sit here and say bad decisions by the mayor. Again, these are his opinions. We're serving a 4-year term on this council, and the mayor is serving the same term, and the citizens of Vienna have the right to speak to who best serves this city. And I'm on record to saying that when it comes time to vote again, I know just where my opinion lies.
And I will just reiterate that I did stress in every one of my comments that this is my opinion, that I am entitled to, just
And
like
everybody's
yours.
got one, I understand.
Absolutely.
And I just wanted to put my point of view on record since you did.
Mr. Conley brings up an interesting topic. Throughout this entire process, I have tried to involve every person, every agency that could have a oversight of this issue. And because it was a personnel issue, there were a lot of things that could not be disclosed due to privacy laws. But Mr. Skogstad, as our city attorney, was involved in every step of the process. And so I do believe that it was conducted way longer than it should have gone on. 4 months was terrible. But I do believe that due to the trying to err on the side of caution and using multiple layers of investigation that we have cleared this situation. And, you know, I stand by my decision. I involved not only the utility board, but the city council in the sharing of every piece of information that I had. And so I'm sorry that Mr. Conley was disappointed, but I do believe that if there was anything that I could have done, we would have done that. And so, you know, I hope I never have to go through this again, but I do believe that no stone was left unturned. So that's the only comment I have for that.
My only comment is, and I don't know what I can say, Russ, because I know we had some executive session. I don't want to bypass anything. You know, there was allegations that were involved with the department head, and serious allegations, you know. And I know that, you know, my decision, I wasn't excited about the decision, but the thing about the allegations, we can't call these employers liars because there are just so many allegations that came about. And I can't see a group of individuals pinpointing someone to try to get rid of them or whatever to make up these lies that they allege these things happened. Well, these things happened, but they weren't, the statute of limitations ran out. I mean, that's where I want to make sure, the reason why these weren't pursued because the statute of limitations expired. And that's what we went on. That was one of your reasonings behind bringing this back, you know. And I told Mr. Roger Conley, I mean, we weren't real involved. I know utility board is involved on one end, but this individual's over the streets too, which is under the city council.
Mr. Elam, I would respectfully ask you to please think before you speak.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Well,
Russ,
here's
that's
where
right.
I'm at. Here's where I'm at. It seems like no matter what I would ask that we refrain from identifying any individual. I would ask at this point that we refrain from referring to any information that's not already in the public record, or you know. I think the process as it moves forward in cases involving employees will be, it's all going to be allegation and conduct dependent. And that's, in this case, it was allegation and conduct dependent. And when I say allegation and conduct, the only reason that the issue was the issue was dealt with the way that it was as far as the process is because, as you know, I've been a prosecutor for 14 years, and I have to tell people sometimes there's what we know, and sometimes there's what we can prove. And no matter what everybody thinks they know, sometimes it didn't happen the way that we all know, in quotes, that it did. And then you're left with the issue of what can you actually prove. Without going into any detail, in allegations like this, the city procedure was followed. There was a procedure that had to be adopted because when the council adopted their new personnel manual, it left a lot of gray areas or things that were simply unaddressed. I didn't know, my guidance is limited to directing how I think something should be looked at, but not as into what the content was that was. I hate talking about employee issues in a public setting because I have the difficulty of trying to balance what is in the interest of and what the community should know versus what the individual's rights are. So I'll limit it to this. I would ask you to limit your comments not to any specific individual. If you have questions about how the procedure was taken, and you may even have questions about how the mayor made his decision. Council was not directly involved in this because, to be frank, the utility board, to the extent that they were involved, and when I say involved, I mean I don't believe they were consulted, but they certainly were informed that there were issues. But ultimately, the decision was left to the mayor. Council has the authority under statute and under our ordinances to create positions, to fund those positions. But at this point, council does not have the authority to determine how it is that, or who it is that those positions are filled. That's a power and authority that the way our present government is drafted in the city of Vienna is reserved to the mayor. We've made some changes about hiring employees. Council's made changes through ordinance to that. But I would really prefer that we not address an individual investigation in public. And I hate to say I'm dancing around, but it really just makes me, I can't say it other than super uncomfortable to talk about naming a specific person. That didn't help at all, did it? Yeah, I know, right? That's the law. I think it's fair to say that the West Virginia State Police were involved. They made a determination. There was an internal investigation that was involved independent of the West Virginia State Police. I made no decisions on any of those. I actually had no direct involvement with the state police investigation as far as any of the decisions that were made. That was left to the prosecutor's office and them. And I know that I work for the prosecutor's office or not, but believe it or not, I actually can keep my nose out of business that's not really mine. So I wasn't involved in that. That decision was left to the elected prosecutor. There was a recommendation made. And then the mayor acted on the information that he had. That would be the same as any procedure for any employee. I don't know how else to say it.
And the recommendation from the prosecuting attorney's office that there would be no charges. All right? So that's why I want to leave that. That's the official. All right? Anything else? All righty. Oh, excuse me. The next council meeting will be a regular council session scheduled for May the 9th, 2019 at 7 p.m. And Big Truck Day will be Saturday, May the 4th in the rec building parking lot near the Jackson Park ball fields. With that, meeting adjourned.